Hi, I'm Dr. Rudy Cashman. Welcome to our show. This, I think, is pretty important information that we'll be speaking about today. And you know, I've done previous shows on this subject, preventing, stopping, reversing type 2 diabetes. I have a guest with me today, Lynn Alt. Lynn will be part of our cooking show, which we will do in the future on the same channel. It's a half hour because I feel unless we learn to cook and participate in the cooking of our own food, and it's tough to get rid of diabetes. We must participate, I think, in our health care. And Lynn is just here for observation, a little conversation, and she's big time into wellness. So I just wanted you to get to know her. So today we'll be speaking about preventing, stopping, reversing type 2 diabetes. The good news is that 90% of the people can get rid of the disease. The trouble is the public in general does not know it, and I don't think providers in general do teach it. But I can give you a lot of references, there's a lot of books, and we'll speak more about them as we go through this lecture. And it doesn't take a long time, and it's not a diet, it's a way of eating. So let's start traveling down this path and just make it some fun here. The incidence, the reason I'm so interested is I'm a wellness director at Lutheran Health Network, and I did neurosurgery 45 years, but I tell you, about 35 of those years at least, I decided that 50 to 80% of the people could avoid most illnesses by watching how they use their fingers, what they put on their forks, and how they use their feet. If you read David Katz's book, K-A-T-Z, he's got it right on the cover of his book. Yes, 93% of type 2 diabetes is avoidable. 80% of vascular disease and 50 to 70% of cancer is avoidable by proper nutrition and to get to, fairly normal weight. Don't have to exactly lose everything, just fairly normal weight. That's great news. And we need to take advantage of that. I don't think it's taught enough. We have too much of pill to the ill, and I'm trying to get around that. So let's start on this. In the world, in this country, we have probably 40 to 50 million type 2 diabetics right now with their horrible complications, and we'll speak about them here shortly. Maybe 150 million people are pre-diabetic, and I'll tell you what that means shortly. A lot of the complications of type 2 diabetes occur in pre-diabetes. So you need to get to work, even get rid of it as quickly as you can to avoid these complications. And then we have, I'm speaking mainly of type 2, where you don't make where you have too much insulin. We'll describe that in more detail. Type 1 is generally due to an autoimmune disease. It can be due to drinking too much milk, some related to gluten consumption, but seen more commonly in children. That's a type 1 where they don't make insulin, and you need to take insulin. You know, they invented that in 1920, Banting and Best, and it saved their lives. I mean, they were starving to death. There were these thin kids in intensive care, and they died. So the invention of insulin saved their lives. But the trouble is, insulin does a lot more than bring sugar into your cells, and we'll discuss it in detail. So we have a world epidemic. It's worse in Saudi Arabia, even South Korea, North Korea, Europe is occurring all over the world, and it's largely due to the type of food we're eating. The type of food that we're eating. So it's a food-created disorder the majority of the time. But that is opportunity. So we change the way we eat, we can get rid of it. That's the wonderful news. So certainly medication helps, even the oral medications, insulin helps. But if it's not an emergency, I recommend you speak to your provider and say, could I try losing 5-8% of my body weight and see if my type 2 diabetes goes away? Yes, before you go on medication. Medication keeps your blood sugar normal, but it doesn't get rid of the disease. But if you do what I asked you to do, you may get rid of the disease, okay? So, but notify your doctor of your intention. If you decide you're going to start eating the way I recommend, your blood sugars will drop quickly. Joel Fuhrman wrote a book called End of Diabetes. He's a good friend of mine, and I refer to specific pages later where it says if you eat the nutrient-dense way, which I'll describe in more detail, you can usually get rid of your insulin in 2 weeks if you're type 2 diabetic, heading towards. A lot of people with type 2 head to type 1 because their pancreas is working so hard secreting insulin to put sugar into your cells for energy that eventually it poops out, and now you're type 1 also, and you must essentially live on insulin to get energy in your cells. You'll understand that better as I continue through the lecture. Let's discuss a minute stages of diabetes. A lot of providers, a lot of people don't look at diabetes in terms of stages. I think that's a mistake. Even Dr. Atkins, whose book necessarily I don't recommend in the end of how many meat products to eat, but in 1995, page 320, he put diabetes in 5 stages based on 64 scientific paper by DeFranzo, the most famous diabetic specialist in the world, even today. But his book was largely ignored. I couldn't believe it. I called up Dr. DeFranzo on the phone. I'm sitting over in a Fresh Market, and I'm speaking to him on the phone while he's getting on the plane to go to the International Diabetes Conference. And I mentioned this in the Atkins book. He never read it. I couldn't believe it. But it's based on DeFranzo's work, so it's very scientific. Dr. Mark Hyman then wrote a book, How to Speak to Your Doctor. You can go onto the internet, Mark Hyman, How to Speak to Your Doctor, 40 pages, and you can print it off for free. Lynn, that's a good idea. And read it. And on page 9, he tells you the tests you should get to get diagnosed early. We want to prevent this disease. It's preventable. And that he describes it really good. 40 pages, Mark Hyman, and he put it in diabetes in 6 stages. What's stage 1? Insulin resistance. That's number 1. And what insulin resistance is where your fats in your blood are elevated from being a bit overweight. Although there are the skinny fat people, about 25% of the people are underweight, especially Asians. They may be of normal weight, but still are pre-diabetic, something to keep in mind. So Asians especially need to get their blood tests done. But insulin resistance, every cell in your body, your 70 trillion cells, has these receptors on them, and insulin must take sugar and open the door and put it in the cell for ATP, for energy. Without energy, you'd be dead, okay? So, but what happens in diabetes, or in early, especially early 1, the fats, the triglycerides in your blood are elevated from eating too much sugar, and the triglycerides make these receptors sticky, and insulin cannot get the sugar into the cell to make energy. Yeah, it's sugar and oxygen makes ATP. And so what happens then, the pancreas secretes insulin like anything to get sugar in there because you need the energy badly, and the insulin level goes up, but the sugar level is still normal. There's a point to that. See, that's insulin resistance, step 1 in pre-diabetes, okay? And the insulin level goes up, and when they run blood tests on these people, on all of us, screening tests, you know, suppose you weigh a couple 100 pounds, they run blood tests on you, they check the fasting blood sugar, and they say, oh, you don't have diabetes, you weigh 220, but you don't have diabetes. The trouble is they didn't check the serum insulin. Then that's the point, and that's where many people get missed, 5, 10, 20 years. The trouble is the complications, where we'll discuss in a minute, already occur in pre-diabetes. Oh yeah, the sudden heart attack, the unannounced heart attack, the hypertension, the unannounced stroke, breast cancer, colon cancer, ovarian cancer, which can be related, occur in pre-diabetes. That's the reason I want you diagnosed very, very early. And the test I recommend is this 2-hour glucose tolerance test. You swallow, you fast, eat nothing overnight, which most of us don't anyway, so that's easy. And they draw fasting blood sugar and a serum insulin. Fasting, 1 hour, 2 hour. It's all you need. And what you'll find in stage 1 of diabetes, the serum insulin is elevated, but the fasting blood sugar is normal. And that's where we miss. In today's health screening, You know, we'll go to General Motors, screen 5,000 people. They run fasting blood sugars, but no serum insulin. And a significant number, you know, at any corporation. That's America today. This is a no judgment zone. Are overweight. The majority of people are pre-diabetic or diabetic. I can go to certain restaurants in town, and I'd say 80% of the people are pre-diabetic or diabetic. I bet you 90% don't even know it. That's why we're here today. That's why we are here today. And so then the second step in diabetes is hyperinsulinemia, where insulin level is up. Now we can check your blood, and we check your fasting blood sugar, stage 2. It's normal. But the serum insulin is up without getting a glucose tolerance test. Again, if you don't check serum insulins, we missed you in the first 2 stages. And what did I say? A lot of the complications of diabetes, of blindness, heart attack, strokes, cancer, skin disease, renal loss of kidney function occur in pre-diabetes. That's why we need to diagnose you very early. The third step is where the fasting blood sugar and the serum insulin both are elevated. That's stage 3 of diabetes. Now it's obvious, okay? And then we tell you, you have diabetes, but you already went for 15 years through pre-diabetes, exposing yourself to all the complications, and that body's on fire. The elevated insulin inflames the body, and insulin has many other side effects we'll discuss shortly. And then we start talking about stage 4 or 5 of diabetes, where we have blindness, unannounced heart attacks, strokes. 75% of uterine cancer is related to being overweight. Most women don't know that. Did you know that, Lynn?
I did not.
See, and this is shameful, but because a cancer doctor should really pass that word out. Is that, yes, and Vera Bradley in the breast cancer thing, 50 to 71% breast cancer is related to being overweight. 75% of uterine cancer is related to being overweight. Polycystic ovarian disease is related to being overweight. But yet, how do you speak to a woman who knows it? It's our fault. It's the provider's fault. It's the medical school's fault. We need to step up to bat to tell people that, because women would react to that. You know, it would react to that. You know, they talk about the screening test. That's important. The screening bus comes along, but does the screening bus tell you, though, that if you get to normal weight, you could avoid 75% of those illnesses? No. I went to a recent health fair. I was even part of it. Are they telling people that? No. So what's this prevention things are great, important. Get them done, especially for the cancer thing. But it's critical. It is even more critical to prevent diabetes, to run proper screening tests. And other things you can get from diabetes. Let's go through the complications a little bit. Because some of those occurred in your family too, and you can tell me about those in a minute. Let me go through the major things, which are visual loss, blindness, retinal changes, cataracts, skin diseases, swollen brain called pseudotumor, sudden heart attacks, strokes, some lung diseases, increased rates of cancer, which I already discussed, renal disease, all complications of diabetes which can be avoided. Remember I said, Dr. Katz, can be avoided. Over 90% can be avoided. Do you think what I'm saying today could be important? Then tell me a little bit, in your family, you had some family members with this?
Yes, both of my parents on both sides of their family, we have had diabetes with, you know, the loss, cutting off of toes and then a foot and then up to the knee, with multiple strokes intermixed into those. We've had people with glasses, cataract surgery, I wouldn't say blindness, but loss of sight. And it has been years of watching my family members just kind of go down slowly. And it was not a good way to go. You know, losing a little foot and then it just slowly.
Can you imagine
to try
the pain and the suffering?
Oh, it was hard, unbelievable
Yeah.
for them and unbelievable for all of us to see it and watch it. And then again, by this point, it was almost too late, or, you know, it was just sad to think that it comes back to eating and health and the body that you have.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that with us. And can you imagine the suffering that they went through and that people go through every day? When this is largely preventable, that I have to say we've been descended upon really by industry, lack of teaching. The medical school doesn't tell the medical students this is preventable the majority of the time, and they graduate. I know I reviewed the curriculum at our 50th class reunion at age 39. I did it, and the amount of and they reviewed what they teach in the med students. Doctor got up there with the dean sitting there, and the head of neurology sitting there, head of cardiology sitting there, and the whole reviewing what they're teaching all over the state. It was very sad, as you know, as you would guess, Lynn. I stood up and took the floor for 5 minutes, although no one asked me to speak, but I had to because we need to teach prevention to avoid these complications. So let's look that's a path to diabetes. Family genetics, family history has something to do with it, but the thing is, though, it's a reaction of your body to what you're eating. That's the whole point. When I see a whole family, they all got type 2 diabetes, and I've seen it, believe me, I've seen it in even my side of the family, and that almost everyone has type 2 diabetes, and they all think it's in their genetic structure, it's in their genes. It's in their genes, all right, and I pointed that out to them, although it's tough. It's a judgment-free zone. My dad had a deli in New York. I'm not judging people. I'm just trying to get people to change. And people think it's a type of food they're eating. It's a type of food they're eating. And the path to diabetes can begin with gaining weight. Even 5% gain of body weight, it can result in pre-diabetes. But a lot of things are going on in your body. Your body's on fire. Blood changes occur, and vascular changes occur, and cancer occur, but you don't see it yet. You don't see it. So blood testing is critical. The American Heart Association and the government, everybody else, they start testing people every 5 years, starting at age 35. No. Testing is getting so cheap today that it'll be you'll be able to get all your blood tests done for like $30. I mean, you can just go there, pay it yourself, get all your blood work done, and it's coming within a year or two. It's coming. Be very cheap, and then you can act on it. I say blood should be checked starting at birth on a yearly basis. Then we will get a hold of this epidemic, which could destroy this country, and it's going to cost us another $1 trillion. They think the diabetic rate and overweight rate is going to double again in 10, 15 years. I mean, I don't see how we can survive it. We're worried about the Ebola virus. We have a czar for the Ebola virus. 3 people had it, 4 people had it, whatever. Here we get millions having it, all the suffering, and you described it very well, Lynn. And the suffering can all be avoided with proper nutrition. So what test I want you to have? Yearly testing, and I want them to check the fats and to get you can get a VAP test, VAP. I think Arthurtech has it, and lipid profile, and a fasting blood sugar, and if you're a bit, and remember the path to insulin resistance. If you're a bit overweight, get that 6-hour glucose tolerance test. Don't be one of these people that had a little more weight than you should have. You may be pre-diabetic, and you can kill the disease right there by walking a little more, maybe dancing a little more, and doing the exercise that you think is most fun. Lose 5% of your body weight, and the disease is gone. Now, if you have bad habits of eating bad again, they'll come back. That's the point. I mean, I think anybody, I could go eat at a fast food restaurant for a month. I think I get diabetes. I think it's something that's reaction to the food. I think anybody could become diabetic if they eat bad enough for a month or two. And that's been shown in movies before. You've seen them. Also, get a CRP that tells you whether your body is inflamed. One of my family members, CRP was 13, normal is 1. That indicates that the blood vessels are inflamed by the sugar. Sugar's the booger, incidentally. Sugar's the booger. So get that. And HDL, the good cholesterol, triglyceride ratio, HDL triglyceride ratio is a good one. the 6-hour glucose tolerance test, the VAP test. And also, if you go through LabCorp, then I think it's NMR test and lipid profile, and the blood sugar, and the CRP, and get the HDL triglyceride ratio. And you'd have a start on proper testing. And you want your triglycerides and your LDL. The NMR, the VAP test, will give you the very low density LDL. See, the cholesterol theory really is going down. It's the very low density that's really the booger, because it's a little tiny, very small but very hard, and as it bounces through your arteries, it hits every crack and cranny, especially where the bifurcations, and that's what causes atherosclerosis. It's not the big fluffy LDL. So your main LDL is not really the bad guy. It's the little guy, and that tells you the number and the size by the NMR or the VAP test. So you want to know, are you 1,000 particles under or over, and what's the size of these, and that will tell me whether your body is on fire. If you go to Amazon Books, I have a book on there, Your Body on Fire, and from sugar. That explains it in great detail. I got about 18 books there on Amazon where you can read about it. Matter of fact, I have a new book out coming shortly. I just looked at the cover. It's on Amazon. It'll be out in about 6 weeks. It's called The New Slavery. A slave to sugar. Slave to sugar. Because sugar is really the problem. And you need an HbA1c test. But some people use HbA1c as the main screening test. But the trouble is, that's your glucose for about 3 months. That doesn't elevate till stage 2, 3, or 4 in diabetes. So use that as a screening test, I think is inappropriate. You need to get ahead of it. Something else is called a metabolic syndrome, syndrome X, and for early diabetes, where they check your HDL, the heavenly cholesterol, your good one, that's the one elevated. In women is usually around 60, men a little lower. Triglycerides, and a very good measurement to see if you might have metabolic syndrome is waist measurement, very accurate. Yeah, waist measurement is very accurate. If you get belly fat, odds are you're pre-diabetic or diabetic. Keep that in mind. If you get belly fat, you could be pre-diabetic, diabetic. At least prove it to me that you're not. Then they use 2 or 3 of these factors I mentioned: the waist measurement, the triglycerides, the HDL, your LDL, your blood pressure, and if you have 2 or 3 of those, you have metabolic syndrome, and that's the path to diabetes. And you want to catch yourself early. Yearly testing. And if they're abnormal, those tests are abnormal, then get it every 3 months till you correct it. But you must participate in your health care. You know, I have sort of the will towards wellness. Number 1 I have on there, frankly, is participate in your health care. You can't just accept script to the ill. You must participate in your health care. So you can prevent type 2 diabetes with early diagnosis. We went through that, the complications we discussed. And the screening test, I think we went over pretty good. And the insulin resistance, I think you now understand, where the triglycerides are on there and insulin cannot get sugar in your cell. That's insulin resistance, step 1 in diabetes. But 90% of the people who are pre-diabetic in this nation, 90% don't know it. We probably get 30 million people who have fat in their liver, which leads to diabetes. Yeah, they may even look thin, but if you were to do a CT scan, ultrasound of the liver, they get fat in the liver because they get belly fat, and belly fat causes inflammation. Fat isn't just something that sits there. They're thinking of calling fat a gland. It makes about 10 cytokines, nasty stuff that cause cancer, cause diabetes, cause vascular disease. Fat is not a friendly thing. It doesn't just sit there 90% of the time. It's another gland making you sick. So you want to get belly fat off your body, and if you have a bit of a problem, you want to know, is there fat in your liver? They'll run some blood tests on that. But again, it's opportunity. You can get rid of this. And we spoke about syndrome X or metabolic syndrome as being a pre a diabetic way to catch you, to screen you, is important. Maybe you need to measure. You think, I'm not overweight. Well, and I can tell by my clothes. Don't trust that, okay? I know some people that say, oh, I know my clothes, and they will not measure your height and your weight, body mass index. You can go in some books, my books, other books. You can go on the internet, just Google body mass index, and a table will come up from some of these government, CDC, NIH, their body mass index. You can get it anywhere and see if you're off or not. You know, if you're between, you ought to be under 25. My body mass index around 21, I'm proud to say. What do you think, Lynn? You're about 21 too?
Yeah, probably about 18, 19.
Look, my God. I've never had anybody, because she's 18 or 19 and I'm 21. Isn't that fantastic? And we know your blood work will be normal, but it's always good to check it. There are people who are, like I said, who are thin, and the blood work based on some heredity and with especially diabetes in the family. Lynn, I still get blood work. Check it. You know what I mean?
As do I.
I mean, I predict everything will be normal, but we are what our blood work is. It isn't we are. It's true. We are what we eat, but come really down to it, we are what our blood work is. That's the bottom line. You know, when you overweight 25 to 30, and you know they'd say you're obese at 30 to 35, morbidly obese at 40. So get it measured. Don't trust the label on your clothing, because I had a relative and said, "Oh, what's your he's diabetes?" And I'm trying to help him, trying to motivate him. So I said, "What's your waist measurement?" He says 36. So I can believe it or not. And he's a relative, so I had a tape measure. I measured him. It's 42 inches. And then he pulls down his jeans, shows it to me. It said 36. So these companies, I think, tell a tale here a little bit. So let's speak about a little bit. What does insulin do? Remember, Benjamin Best invented it in 1920, saved a lot of lives. Even today, it saves a lot of lives. But the trouble is, insulin does other things besides bring sugar into the cells, okay? It transports sugar into the cell, but it's an anabolic hormone. It causes you to be fat. Recently, I was giving a seminar at St. Joe, and there was a lady who got from HbA1c of 10, got it down to 7. Diabetes usually starts at 6.5. That's a 3-month sugar thing. Pre-diabetes, 5.7 to 6.4 or so, and she got it down to 7. But she says, I can no longer lose weight, and I was trying to figure out why in front of this audience, and then I figured it out. You're on medication, yeah. She's on insulin. I would guess she probably doesn't need it anymore, or needs a lot less. And I told her, as long as you're on insulin, you'll not lose further weight, because it's anabolic. It causes weight gain. Yeah, something important to remember. Insulin combines the sugar with protein in the blood and cause advanced glycation end products, and they get deposited in your brain and cause memory loss. And I think I did mention that previously. A lot of the memory loss occurs in type 2 diabetics. They may call it Alzheimer's disease. That's not what it is. It's memory loss from deposit of ages in your brain. But those also deposit in your heart. So when they do the calcium scores, a lot of that's ages. Yeah, it combines it with calcium. It gets deposited in your joints, and that's why people with type 2 diabetes have a lot of hip replacements, knee replacements, because of these deposits of these ages. So they deposit in the brain, cause memory loss, in your heart, cause vascular disease, in your joints, cause arthritis. It also, insulin decreases your immunity. Remember, diabetics more likely to get infections, and they don't heal. Their wounds don't heal very well. They're more likely to get infections. So once they started, and then you mentioned amputating the toes, and generally, on average, it's the toe, and then the lower leg, and then the knee, then the thigh, and another year or two, they're not alive.
Right.
That would you notice too?
Well, and it was all from infection.
And it was all from infections.
They started with the toe, thinking they got it all, but it was infection, and then it just kept going further and further into the body.
Any diabetic out there who's got an open wound, go to the wound center and get it treated right away. And insulin causes inflammation in the body, which leads to cancer. Remember, I said a body on fire. You may look fairly normal to me. Maybe slightly overweight. Maybe I don't even notice that. But if your pre-diabetic, your body's on fire. It's burning. It's a slow burning occurring in the blood vessels, in the brain, in your joints. It also increases cancer rates, which we spoke about, ovarian cancer, uterine cancer, breast cancer. Women need to know uterine, breast cancer, ovarian cancer is highly related to being overweight, having insulin resistance, to have an elevated insulin level. That all can be prevented. So Vera Bradley sends all the money over to Indianapolis, keeps zero in the city. I went over there and checked on it. I'm glad they're doing what they're doing, but I think 20% here should be spent on teaching women prevention. That makes sense to them. Yeah. Makes sense to me. But they're not doing it. So what's health? Health equals nutrients in the food divided by calories. So I'm going to refer a lot to the work here, again, of Dr. Joel Fuhrman, End of Diabetes. I also wrote a book of reversing type 2 diabetes. It's on Amazon by Dr. Fuhrman, my friend. He's very famous. You see him access TV all the time, and it's out of his book, Health Equals Nutrients. And he speaks a lot about, and I'm going to speak to you about how you frankly should be eating, is that we have vitamins and minerals in food, okay? And if you look at foods of color, they're full of vitamins and minerals. You can add onions and mushrooms. They also have them. And phytochemicals, about 25,000, they're the enzymes that run your body. The intermixture of the vitamins, the minerals, and the phytochemicals lead to great health. The symphony, the music, the orchestra of interaction leads to great health. I think it's a nice way to explain it. And my point is, and Dr. Fuhrman teaches, and we're not teaching a diet, no diet. And the reason being is that if you eat this type of food, say 80%, largely vegetables, mushrooms, onions, about 80% of fruit and vegetables, that your diabetes will go away. You can eat 20% meat products, and it would be good if you were to eat organic meat products, ones that don't have where they raise the animal without the pesticides, the herbicides, and all the hormones that make the animal sick, and then you're going to eat it. Well, it's going to make you sick. So are bad fats in animals. So try to eat the organic meats, the organic chicken. So fats are not all bad. But the trouble with eating a lot of animal meats is, Dr. Fuhrman wrote in the book, is full of Heme, H-E-M-E. So eating a lot of animal products increase rates of cancer. Also, IGF-1 is a hormone, again, insulin growth hormone, and that's what causes a great deal of cancer. So that's the reason to avoid meat products. Not totally. And Dr. Fuhrman and I would say no diet. I wrote a book called The Secret of the Non-Diet. Not a diet, because the nutrients I spoke about, the vitamins, the minerals, phytochemicals, will turn your appetite off. If you're eating this way, it'll naturally turn your appetite down. I've seen it. You've seen it. Yep. You've seen it. And we need to detox from sugar. I mean, sugar is the booger. Sugar is 4 to 8 times more addictive than cocaine. And we have to be critical of industry here a little bit. I mean, you walk into some of the businesses there, and what do you greet it? I mean, you gas up, what do you greet it by? Sugar, okay? You go to the churches, what do you greet it with? Donuts. We need to get away from that and have nutrient food available. We need to pay attention, because this is destroying America. This is destroying America, so businesses need to wake up. And when we speak about this, Journal Gazette had a great article in the paper the other day, about processed meats not being healthy for you. And in some of the restaurants, I mean, what's the best we can do? What do you think, Lynn? I think the best we can do is choice.
It is choice.
And the restaurant, they wrote a lot about there's no choice there. So I would say they ought to develop a choice. Don't change the other food. You decide. I even toured I was touring Notre Dame campus. I didn't go to school there, but I love the place because they sell my books. And the chef was having a cigarette outside while I'm on the cell phone. So I grabbed the chef, and he showed me every cafeteria, all the food in Notre Dame. Isn't it something? And it was beautiful cafeteria, international cafeteria. But they also had bad food, no doubt about it. But that's the best you can do, is to give them choice. I don't think we can probably eliminate choice, although we can educate people as to what bad choices are. I think people need to know, there's lack of information out there. I think people need to know that they need to read the labels and read the sugar content in the foods. Yeah, there are bad fats, there are omega-6 bad fats, so you need to know something about it. But the main booker, the main hooker is sugar. So there are 50 names for sugar, so you get to learn those. So I want you to eat nutrient dense, at most. And Dr. Fuhrman, so it's a nutrient way of eating. Dr. Fuhrman would call them nutritarian. I would call them flexitarian. So a little flexible. You don't have to be totally hard-nosed. You can go to a Christmas party or something and occasionally grab something nasty. You'll be fine. If you don't have advanced diabetes and your weight's fairly normal, to follow things 80-90%, you'll be fine. I bet, Lynn, there are times you eat something nasty. I bet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Once a week.
I'm a dessert fan, so you talk sugar.
See what I mean?
I could go without the meat,
Yeah.
and then I could do desserts. However,
it's amazing.
Again, it's all about balance.
Yeah, and that's fascinating what you said, Lynn, because obviously body mass index of 18, and mine 21. If I were to go home on a stressful day and there was a donut laying there, Lynn, I'd be grabbing it. And because sugar is so addictive, don't you think?
Yeah. But because I think it's balanced, I think it's okay to have a good dessert with butter and cream cheese or whatever once a week, and enjoy it and savor it because it's worth it.
I think it's good advice. Some people, it just would get them to start eating bad all over again. So you have to kind of watch it, see what you can control. And what your stress level is. Stress causes us to eat because it's pretty quickly we feel good. But while I'm on the subject of stress, sugary drinks cause 50% of obesity. So that's not the answer. I say water with some lemon and lime, and you can say, well, non-sugary drinks. The darn trouble is they have the best one of the ones you could use would be stevia, which is a plant. But the trouble is stevia is 200 times more sweet than sugar. So what's the next thing you're going to eat? Something sugary. So don't mess with it. Water, lemon, lime, and don't have any of those substitute sugary things in there to make you feel like you're eating sugar. You can detox from sugar 10, 14 days. 10, 14, does not take long. Be very strict for about 2 weeks, and your taste for sugar will go down. You won't, but hardly any of us will ever get over it. If Lynn and I can't get over it, I doubt anybody out there can get totally over it.
And I don't want to.
And we don't want to. We don't have to. We don't have to. But if I had advanced diabetes and I had angioplasty and stuff, for Pete's sake, that's a time to maybe even become if you had a bunch of angioplastics, cardiac surgery, I think that's the time to follow Dr. Esselstyn at the Cleveland Clinic and become a vegan. And you just don't eat meat, dairy, and just at that point your life's at stake. But Dr. Esselstyn took 26 advanced cardiac patients. He's still alive, works there 20 years ago, and taught them a vegan way of eating. And guess what? They're all alive. Yeah. So depends on your situation. Yeah. You know what I mean? So again, in summary, and then now we're here recommending this way of eating 70-80% vegetables, maybe 20% meat products or nuts. Rudy's plate is, Rudy Notre Dame, okay, is half vegetables, another quarter starchy vegetables, another quarter can be nuts and seeds. Nuts have a lot of protein in them, and some whole grain and some animal product, maybe some chicken. But you shouldn't be eating fish more than 2 days a week. It's 30-40% fat. It also has in it some cancer factors. And so I'm not on eating fish 7 days a week. This is not going to work for you. That's the story of fat. There's some good fats. We need some essential fatty acids. And omega-3s, that's a good one, okay? Olive oil, and you can find some in nuts, for example, and in fish. But make sure the fish is from the ocean and is not full of mercury. So we need to kind of find where's the fish from. A lot of fish today is raised in farm ponds, and they feed it hybridized or genetically altered corn, and And because of the herbicides and pesticides used in corn, the fish are not healthy. When you go to a restaurant, ask them, where's the fish from? And you'll be surprised. I was at a country club and they said Scottish salmon. Well, you know where it's from? Farm pond. Well, and I asked the chef to change it. He never has. And it's not healthy for you. So you got to find it. Where's the fish from? Waiters are very accommodating. I find even if you go to a restaurant where it seems like 90% not healthy food, if you spend some time with the waiter and tell them what you want, I want the roasted vegetables and so, you know what's going to happen? You'll get it. Most of the time, they'll change for you. Unless it's a fast food place and they're a little less, accommodating. But with the omega-3 fats and omega-6 fats, the essential fatty acids we need for cell metabolism. Before living things had heart and lung, how did they communicate? Those 18 carbon essential fatty acids would jump from cell to cell. They were the internet, the communicators. We still have them today. Every leaf in the universe has some fat in it, alpha-linolenic acid. That's how through photosynthesis it picks up the energy from the sun. So obviously very important fat. And then we eat the vegetable and they come in our body and we need them. So the omega-3 is the anti-inflammatory, the omega-6 is the pro-inflammatory, but we need some of both. Communication would not properly occur in our cells if we had no omega-6. So remember in Alaska years ago when they were studying nutrition, they found the people in Alaska, they're eating blubber and they had 70% fat diet. No vascular disease. Yeah, no diabetes. They didn't get vascular diabetes till they started eating the American diet. That was studied. Fascinating. So fat is not necessarily an enemy. It doesn't increase your insulin level. Okay, so it's kind of interesting. So we need some good fats, and you can get them nuts, a little bit of olive oil. But remember, olive oil is what? 100% fat. So we have to be careful the amount of it that you put, and learn about salads and putting some vinaigrette, things like that on there if you need to put something on there, or eat them without anything. And those can be made. So I think, and I meant to mention this earlier, learn to cook. I think that's critical. And that's the reason this show after this, my half-hour show, which will be on Mondays, we're going to start cooking classes and start reading. The utensils in the kitchen will be the first, and then to eat whole foods. This is an excellent book or DVD to read, Raw Food Made Easy by Jennifer Kornbluth, right here. I watched this DVD. It's unbelievable, unbelievably good. She is out of Chicago. I would recommend her DVD and her book to learn to cook properly and to eat properly. As a type 2 diabetic, I doubt you ever get a disease eating at a restaurant. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. Yeah, you need to learn something about cooking. Even myself, who doesn't know a lot about it, because I'm doing these shows now and I'm finally watching and helping, and man, it's fun. It's fun. Turn on the music, start the dancing, and turn it into a fun activity. Actually, Dr. Furman, Dr. Lustig, Dr. Hyman wrote famous books and speak exactly the way I speak. They're all cooks. Their families, it's in their books, don't start dinner till they're home. They have to pick out what they're going to eat, and they have to participate in doing it. And can you imagine all sitting around the table, the whole family, and speaking to each other? I mean, that's fantastic. You're going to have a stronger family, going to have a healthier family. The kids will learn to cook, which is critical. If America is going to save itself, I think the kids are going to have to learn to cook. It needs to be taught in the schools. They may think it's not important. It's important. It'll determine the health of our nation. What's the sense of educating them to become a corporate CEO? I knew so many corporate CEOs that run big companies in the town. Oh, we have diabetes. And most of them don't know it. And their girlfriends or wives have tried to teach them. They're not willing. I know. I know. It's too bad, because we need these people to keep Fort Wayne going, get our economy going. Very intelligent guys, very successful businesses, but horrible eating habits. And then not willing to change to top it all off. with some exception, obviously.
Right.
Obviously, there are exceptions. So I'm not for starving yourself to get over diabetes. It's not going to work. It'll drop your body mass, your basic metabolic rate, and then you'll get so hungry, and your metabolic rate will not go back up, and you'll get heavier than ever. And now I'd like to mention a few minutes about sitting disease. Now that's interesting. You hear about it now and then. What is sitting disease? And I'm writing a book on it, so I have a bigger interest in it. It was written up by John Levine at Mayo Clinic 10, 15 years ago. But if you want an easy way to get healthy, listen to this. I think this is very interesting. Let's say your basic calorie burn per day is this high. Let's make it maybe as high as this book. This is your basic calorie burn per day. Half of that is based on your basic metabolic rate, which is the activity of your lungs, your heart, your brain, your bowels, your muscles doing nothing, okay? So it depends on your age, your sex, your size. So a little person, skinny person, they're going to metabolic rate a lot lower, going to burn less calories than a big person. Got it? That's hard to change. That's 50% of your basic calorie burn, okay? Then there's a thermic effect of food, which I'll discuss in more detail. That's 10, 20%. And then there's about 30, 40% left, and I call that AOL, activity of living. That's a term I invented for it because I'm writing a book. Activity of living. So what are we talking about here? Whether you take the stairs or the elevator, whether you walk the dog, whether you're dancing, whether you're standing up doing the cooking, standing triples calorie burn versus sitting down. If anybody's sitting for 2 hours, it has the same effect on the body as smoking a pack and a half of cigarettes. Proven in the scientific literature. Can you imagine what's occurring in America? That's why I went to the ASHA agency recently to get some marketing going for myself, and Tim and there had 10 people on treadmills and computers. They're on a treadmill while they're using a computer. That's 200 calories an hour. 200 calories divided into 3,500 calories, that's 1 pound. Over in a year, that's 20 pounds. 20 pounds. Suppose you did it for 2 or 3 hours. Another girl didn't go on the treadmill. She's standing there, everything plugged in, and she's working all day on her computer, standing up. Triples the calorie burn. And then you can make a list at home of AOL activities, things that you could do, like walking the dog twice a day, whether using the stairs. That's not even a separate category for regular sports, because it's been studied, and we follow them. Only 3.5% of the people work out regularly. 3.5. You would have guessed. What would you have guessed?
I would probably have guessed it to be a little higher than that.
Yeah. See, most people would say 10 or 20. I would have guessed 20%. Well, I know of a local workout place which I go for an hour a day, 9,000 members at this one place, and said only 10% show up regularly. And remember that 9,000 is a pre-selected group. It had to be motivated. You see what I'm talking about?
Right.
So I don't consider that a separate category. Work out, that's part of it, but that's part of your AOL. So work out regularly like I do, play tennis at night too. Take a half-hour walk every morning, except not this morning. The show is a bit early. Maybe I'll do it later. But the more AOL you get, now let's talk about the thermic effect of food. And this is fascinating. That's why I think this is a great way to lose weight, if you're trying to lose some weight and get healthy without a big deal. You know what I mean? I mean, you get your AOL activity, okay? It's the thermic effect of food. If you eat a 100% fat diet, you lose 4% of metabolism. Only 4%, okay? If you eat the nutrient-dense way, foods of color, you get mushrooms and onions, okay, foods of color. Number one is they're water dense, right? I mean, spinach, 80% water, okay? They're water dense, so there's no, you're going to urinate that out, okay? And they're full of fiber. Fiber is your friend. Fiber is hard to digest. It'll pass out in your stool. Water, stool, and then the metabolism to break these vegetables down to convert them to sugar so you can use them. You're going to lose 30 to 50% of the calories in digestion. Isn't that something? I mean, so if you ate 1,000 calories of nutrient-dense food, you lose 300 to 500 calories just eating that way, and then you increase your AOL. Lynn, is getting healthy difficult?
No.
Did I say?
Really simple.
It's simple. Did I say go on a diet? I didn't say go on a diet, but I said eat differently, increase your AOL. You don't have to be running marathons to get healthy. You just get food selection, isn't it, Lynn?
Yeah.
So that's the reason, my next show I say it's going to be on cooking and selecting the food and shopping properly.
And I can honestly say that once people start eating the right foods, they'll immediately notice a difference in their energy level, probably better sleep, their mental sharpness. But we're so busy on this earth day after day that we just go, 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 that no one is being conscious of what they're consuming, how much water they're drinking throughout the day. They're not watching, the scene. You can look in the mirror and see from the outside, but it's the inside body that we've been given that is truly an amazing mechanism that works from top to bottom, that if you could look inside to see when you're healthy how well this machine works, it really makes food an important part of your consumption in your body, more so than the exercise. And then the exercise will also, mine is not to see how fast I can run or how far I can run. Mine is simply for my mind and my body and my spirit to get rebalanced. And then just go to that quiet place where everything kind of just shuts down, where you can feel or acknowledge some of the areas that you can do better in on your food consumption. And it's not to say that you can't enjoy greasy, cheesy pizza, but you will find if you eat healthy day after day, meal after meal, that when you do eat out, you immediately will see some of the effects in your body of butters and oils or ingredients, salts, sugars that are in the restaurant foods, and you'll be able to see and feel in your body the difference from what you normally eat, the healthy foods. And then you also really enjoy the healthy foods more when you know they're fresh and they're good for you.
Then those are beautiful words. I couldn't have possibly said it any better. And your energy will come back, and you look better. And I'll mention too something that a lot of people don't know much about, and I didn't know till the last few months: epigenetics. Epi, upon your genes. We have extensions of our chromosomes called telomeres that are influenced by what we put in our fingers, our forks, and how we use our feet, and what we breathe in. The environment can affect our genetic structure. And if you eat this way, I've got pictures on some of my other shows of 3 or 4 people who, and most of the time we're not speaking about this, but in terms of how much weight loss, but these people have had 150-pound weight loss. Lynn, they look like movie stars now. It's the genetic structure of their food brought biomathematics, it's called Fibonacci numbers, to that they rearrange their body. It's something to see.
Yeah.
I get a truck driver that weighed 360 that I met over at Planet Fitness, and I gave him a half-hour talk on how to get over his serious problem. He's a truck driver in California. He just passed him through. His truck was parked in the parking lot, he said, "Doc, you remember me?" This was 9 months later. I didn't remember him because I give this talk all the time. And now he weighed 210. I have a picture on my phone, and he looks beautiful. He said, "Doc, there's something there I'm going to tell you, though, that you will remember." I was at, he says, "We walked outside, and we measured around the truck how many feet, and it was 55, and then you told me to walk those 55 feet 100 times before I went to work, then twice while I'm driving, and once after I drove. It was 4 miles a day." Then he said, "I listened to Dr. Oz on the radio," which you told me to because I didn't want to read, yeah, unbelievable. It's an unbelievable story, because truck drivers are sitting there and they eat in some of their restaurants, which aren't the healthiest. If you ever go through one,
Yeah.
you're greeted by donuts and greasy food. And this man is in beautiful health. And I thought it was such a story. It ought to be on some major TV show.
Sure.
Yeah, there were only 9 people working out that day, so I think it was kind of a spiritual event that this man appeared the day I was in the bathroom.
Well, and again, you said it's all about choice, and it is about attitude and perception too, because I think there's a lot of people out there that don't know what it feels like to feel fabulous because they've been eaten this way or they're in their routine.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely right. They felt bad for so long that they don't know what it's like to feel good again. And the majority of people out there, I think, with the diabetes thing, do not realize you can get rid of this disease. Dr. Furman would say, in his book, "Do you get off of insulin if you eat this way?" Totally. Okay, notify your doctor. Know the symptoms of low blood sugar, and high blood sugar. You got to know those symptoms in case you is that the changes occur quickly. That insulin level will go down. That's what you need very quickly. He says 2 weeks, you're probably rid of your insulin. 2 weeks. And your oral medications, 50% maybe within a month or two. And in 6 months, 99% of the people are off the medication. Right in this book, page 20. And I want to make sure that you knew it, that it's not just me saying it. And so if you eat this way, your blood sugar is most likely to be even. You'll get normal, stable weight, normal lifespan without complications. Right out of this book, page 20. Reversal of diabetes, prevention of diabetes-related complications. Odds are quite high. End of diabetes, Dr. Furman. It's not just me. And you can read the book yourself. This is critical. Because of the type 2 diabetic can avoid all these illnesses, and I hope you'll join us in this message which I'm putting out there today. Exercise, is part of it, but that's not the majority of it. We'd like you to exercise, half-hour walk a day, do an exercise that's fun, maybe dancing, and take a music lesson, take a dancing lesson. And so exercise definitely is part of it. And thank you very much Lynn, thank you for being a guest here today.
Thank you for having
Join
me.
our cooking classes, because in the end, what you cook will determine your future. Get yearly testing and totally believe that you can get rid of this disease 80-90% of the time, but you got to participate. Without participation, it won't work. It may take a month. It may take 6 months, 50%, probably 2 or 3 months. It'll be gone. And join us in our free lectures at Lutheran Hospital. Go to cashmanhealth.com and get a list of the lectures. And again, thanks very much for watching. Namaste, Lynn. Thank you very much. I just love your words.
Thank you.
And join us in some of our other shows in the future. We thank Public Access for giving us this time, and I hope you attend some of our free lectures at Lutheran Hospital. Read our books. We even get CDs, CD-ROMs, and DVDs, and we love you all very much. Actually, that's why we're here.